I want to read a couple of things to you guys because it really it might shock people into an awareness of what he's saying. All right. So what some people know, but not everyone, is that our system came from Prussia. The system of education we have was adopted to copy the Prussian model back at about 1836 or so. Okay. And there was a guy in Ohio. He was a leading education reformer. He hailed the Prussian system of compulsory education in his book, The Prussian System, blah, blah, blah. And then we adopted the model. Well, here's what they thought that was for. The German school, they liked this, must fashion the student and fashion him in such a way that he simply cannot will otherwise than you wish him to will. Okay. That was
wow.
Okay. So that's what that was. And then, so they Americanized it a little bit, but even so, Edward Ross, who was a prominent American sociologist back in the day, an education theorist, said that the purpose of education, public education, was to collect little plastic lumps of human dough from private households and shape them on the social kneading board. That's a direct quote. There's a source if anyone wants it. And then the goal of government schools is, this is in an article that I'm reading, not to serve children by teaching them to think and acquire important knowledge, but to serve the state by forcing children to conform to its will. The U.S. Bureau of Education made the point clear in 1914. Quote, the public school exists primarily for the benefit of the state rather than for the benefit of the individual. More recently, William H. Sewell, a professor of education at the University of Virginia, defended government schooling by stating each child belongs to the state. There's lots of that. I could show you a whole book full of education history and quotes like that from leading thinkers, including Woodrow freaking Wilson, that explain very clearly that government-run education in America was for the state. It was not a gimme for you. It was not to benefit your child. It wasn't even meant to be your child care or your daycare. It was meant to take your child away from you and fashion them into a perfect little lump of stuff so that the state wouldn't have a problem with your little child. And it came on the scene, coincidentally, around the time when a lot of immigrants were coming to America, most of them Catholic. They didn't like Catholics. Woodrow Wilson especially really didn't like Catholics. So then the Catholics intelligently said, we'll make our own schools. And there had to be a lawsuit out in Oregon. And it was the Little Sisters of something that sued. I can't remember the name of the case, but the Supreme Court said, no, they have a right because of the religious freedom. So every time you're tempted to just throw all religious people under the bus, remember that one of the reasons that we have parental rights at all related to education, including homeschooling, because that falls under it as well, because not everyone could afford parochial school. So the theory was, well, you can still have the right to educate your children at home for your religious purposes. Okay. So the Amish are taken care of, the Catholics are taken care of, and anybody else who feels the need to do it. And then since then, what I hear from people is, well, homeschool is where crazy Christian people go to educate their kids, which is a complete myth and not true. But I would prefer that people tip their hat and say thank you to those who said, we don't want the state teaching our kids values, and we're going to set up our own schools, and went to court and fought about it, because that is why we have what we have today. And we do not literally have people coming to the house with guns. P.S. The system in place in Germany right now is the identical one Adolf Hitler put in place in 1938. It has not changed one iota. It is compulsory. Homeschooling is illegal in Germany. Illegal for everyone. You have to be terminally ill or have some severe disability that requires you to be at home because they can't handle you at school. And that's it. And it has not changed since Hitler's time.
And you know they're going to come after homeschooling again. You know, like, we all need to be prepared for that. I'll admit, like, I used to be one of those people, absolutely, that thought that homeschooling was just for crazy religious freaks, and the children would grow up weird because they didn't have socialization. And then I looked at actually what the schools were teaching, and I was like, it's like the smartest thing that anyone can do. So we should definitely anticipate that they're going to be trying to come after homeschooling again, in the same way, frankly, that you know, I mean, I really don't want to have this conversation, but we can talk about how some people think they're going to go after Roe v. Wade in the Supreme Court. It's not identical, but like these issues are going to be revisited.
Yeah, for sure. And it keeps coming back again and again and again. And it's when you start seeing people demonize half the country Yeah. And, look, the National School Boards Association just labeled all those people yelling in the microphone. Remember I said 2 weeks ago, oh, they're going to use this against you. They're going to take this and they're going to elevate it and make you a terrorist. And then I got the news, I got the email. I was like, oh, like I said.
Well, exactly. And for people who don't know what Deb is talking about, Deb was on this channel, I think it was only like a week ago or so. And you said to people, like, when you go and you act like crazy people at the school board meeting, your name's getting put on a list. You're going to be judged for that. There's going to be retribution for that. That's why you don't go and yell like a crazy person at the school board meeting. There are better strategies to take. And people really did not want to hear that. Like, there were so many angry comments. And then I clipped out that section I put up. People were so angry at being told, don't go yell like a crazy person at the school board meeting, because A, the school board doesn't have the power to change what you want them to change anyway. B, it's going to have repercussions. And then lo and behold, they're now trying to label all the parents domestic terrorists that are trying to do that.
And somebody asked me, they're like, well, why don't they just tell us they don't have that power while we're standing there? I mean, maybe Justice can address that one better than I do, but the immediate thought that comes to my mind is, maybe they disagree with you and they're enjoying watching you make a fool of yourself.
Yep.
Maybe they've been trained to make hay of this. I don't know. Justice,
I will answer that. No, I can answer that. They will not tell you your rights, just like the state doesn't tell, this reminds me of the Miranda case. Cops didn't have to tell you your Miranda rights until the Supreme Court said you have to. It's the same thing. When you have school committee members are also agents of the government, and you need to remember that. They take oaths, your select board and your city council takes an oath to your town. But school committee members everywhere across the country, even school boards, higher levels, they take an oath not to the state, not to a town, not to a city, but to the district, to the school itself. So it is in their best interest, and it also saves time if they do not tell you your rights up front. It is a complete disadvantage for them to tell you, oh, let's put you on a level playing field with us. Because as I've said many times about Robert's rules on my channel, if you don't know the rules, you're a victim of your own ignorance. You will be played like a card on the table. So I want people to understand this. You are literally playing poker, not knowing the rules when you're going into these meetings. They're not going to tell you that they have powers to do stuff because, quite frankly, and here's the other thing people don't understand, that while there is a lot of training for school committee members, most of them don't fully know the level of their powers. They don't know where it goes in certain directions. They don't know, where it ebbs and flows. They're guessing a little bit just as much as you do, but they have legal counsel that they can go and talk to. You don't. Yeah. So remember that.
And it's your tax dollars paying for it. So, it's just about, and I get so much pushback on this because most of the organizations right now that are raising money for campaigns to run people for school board. And they're all excited when they win a seat. And they're like, no, we're really making a difference because we won a seat. And I'm like, all that means is you have enough people in that town or that district or whatever who agree with that candidate. But you haven't taken over the whole board and they can't talk to each other privately and that person can't coalition build. And that the benefit of it is the campaign itself. So if you got money to burn and you want to get up on a soapbox and you want to run for school board and pontificate about what the schools should be doing and raise awareness using that platform, I think it's a very expensive way to do what I do and what you do, Carl, and what Justice does. I mean, I can reach actually more people than they can with their little campaign if awareness is your issue.
Yeah, and I want to, bring up this chat from Brian. Saul Alinsky style, get your opponent to overreact to make them look foolish in public.
Yes.
Anyone who watches my channel knows that I'm a fan of rabble-rousing. Like, I consider myself a rabble-rouser at the end of the day. I'm a fan of it. I think that there is value in rabble-rousing. I think there's frankly value in going in and making a fiery school board speech. But you have to understand what the goal is, and you have to understand what you're giving up when you're rabble-rousing. Right. So I'm not going to say that making a fiery school board speech, unless you're someone like Matt Walsh and are doing it in a school that your children will never attend. Like, I'm not going to say that there's no value in
and you're
that.
trying to raise money for yourself. And
you're trying to raise money for yourself and get on Tucker Carlson again. But like, you know, I mean, like it's like a pep rally. Like who compared it? Someone compared it to a pep rally. And I think this was a really apt comparison. Like the pep rally is not going to win the football game. The pep rally is going to get people excited for the football game. The pep rally might get more people to the football game. It's going to get people like feeling good about their chances of winning the football game, but it's not going to win the football game. So if your goal is to actually change things, if your goal is to actually win the football game, you need to be realistic about what's going to accomplish that. And it's not screaming like a banshee at the school board meeting.
Right. And it's not even necessarily replacing the coach. You notice that too with sports. Like, we need a new coach. Maybe you do. Maybe you have sucky players. I mean, there's so many different variables that, I mean, coaching is important, but, you know, people tend to get attached. What I've noticed is people have this hierarchy of who's going to fix it, and they go from high to low. And what's weird is they don't go all the way to the top. That's obviously too big, right? Like, I can't replace the whole state board, right? So they go to like the highest one within arm's length of them. And there's no other rhyme or reason to it. It's not logical. It's like some kind of emotional thing that like the coach has to fix and make us win the team. And of course they got all, you know, like freshmen on the team or something. I'll do my best, but whatever. Now, if you think that this all goes back to like the 1800s and then, since then we've evolved and it's changed, there's still case law. Like 2005, an appellate court judge in a case in California ruled that the state is the parent the second that kid crosses the threshold. Parens patria, or whatever, the country is parent. It says the government has the authority to do anything reasonably related to its educational mission. It's not yours, not your child. Its educational mission. This is 2005. And according to Judge Stephen Reinhart, there is no, quote, there is no fundamental right of parents to be the exclusive provider of information regarding sexual matters to their children. And this does not, and that ultimately the court wrote, parents' right to control the upbringing of the children does not extend beyond the threshold of the school door. So any rights.
So the system is working as designed.
Yes. And any rights that your state has given you, like Virginia, for example, which McAuliffe just violated. If Virginia had a right, an extra thing on top of that in their constitution or in their laws that said, well, parents got, democratically elected people that passed this thing that said we do have rights over sexual material, which apparently they did once. And McAuliffe comes in and goes, no, that doesn't count. He can't do that. So he just violated that. That's Virginia. So you have to know your own individual state. And like Justice said, if you have to understand the base premises, they started with the premise that the state owns your kids. Anything above and beyond that was won over by the individual state legislature that decided to add to that. But as a general rule, and even going up to the Supreme Court, there's precedent that they can do whatever they want. It's their educational mission, not yours. You don't own the schools. You're not taking back the schools. They were never yours to begin with. I've said this 100 times. People don't want to hear it. They're like, no, but we pay for them. Yes, we pay for the military too. Do you have an F-16 in your backyard? I mean, we pay for lots of things that we don't have any control. Did you choose to go to Afghanistan? Was that, you said, yeah, like, hey, let's go. I paid for that. No, you didn't.
No.
Did you get to say, come back from Afghanistan sooner? I paid for that. No, you didn't. Well, it's the same thing with public schools. And just because they have sweet, nice people in cute jumpers and Christmas sweaters who work there doesn't mean that it's yours.
Mm-hmm.